Hi, I'm Von Solis. Welcome to Surviving Suicide, Finding Life Again, Episode 3. This is Chaucer. He says hi. Today I really wanted to talk a little bit about the dark web. I just came across a story a few days ago, and I'm actually writing a blog post about it, so I'll put the link below this video to that post so that you can click on the news story and get a little bit more information that I'm not going to talk about in this video. But it brought to mind all of the problems that we're having globally and in our respective countries with our children, our teenagers, our young adults, accessing the dark side of the web. I call it the internet's underbelly, and it's really concerning because as much as we as parents don't want to admit that our kids may be accessing this information, and in the case of suicide, there are instructions how to commit suicide. There are small secret communities that are gathering on different platforms. In the case of the news story that I'll be putting this link to, for this particular episode, the story focused on a group of Norwegian girls and a journalist, an investigative journalist, who's actually taken it a step further and uncovered a group of hundreds of secret accounts, all encouraging and supporting each other in self-harm, different levels of self-harm, and of course ultimately to die by suicide. So what I really wanted to sort of talk about in this video was the fact that I have a little bit of experience with it, in the sense that my daughter, who died by suicide in 2005 at the age of 22, she also accessed the dark web of the time. And back in 2005, the internet, while it was, rampant and all the rest of it, we didn't have apps, we didn't have texting, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have the platforms, the social media platforms that we do now and that the kids use, and quite frankly, I'm not even sure all the names of the ones the kids use. And so I only found out about it when the police brought it to our attention after they had confiscated her computer and had it for a couple of months. And they returned it to our family, my husband and me, and basically asked us if we knew that she had, been on these sites. And we're, of course, no, we didn't know. We were shocked. And they erased all the data. They erased all of her, history. So we never knew what site she was visiting. They wouldn't give up that information. And so I was really disheartened to hear about that, because I had no idea what it meant that Janaea had been accessing this information, and what kind of information she was posting, what she was looking for, how serious her emotional state was at the time that she died by suicide. So I ended up being able to access one suicide board, and I remained just an observer on that board. And I really wanted to know what people, who was accessing these boards, what were they saying, what were they talking about, what kind of information was being given to them. And what I found back in 2005 was very disconcerting and alarming, because there were groups from all communities, walks of life, professionals, medical professionals, young people, teenagers, articulate young adults that were students, that were trekking the world. It didn't matter. It was not the person that we would normally think of that was going to kill themselves or kill themselves. And this is one of the reasons I'm doing the channel Surviving Suicide, Finding Life Again, it's to not only get the information out there about some of these topics that are kind of difficult for us to talk about, and publicly we don't really want to talk about them, although some of them are now starting to make their way around the media. But it's to also help parents out there that have an opportunity to be more involved in their own child's life and their social interactions online. That is so important, and I want other people to really understand it can happen to you. It can happen if you're someone watching this video that has already lost a child to suicide. You'll understand what I'm talking about. You never thought it was going to happen to you. You didn't think your child was going to be the one that had the problem that ended up that they killed themselves. But what I'm saying is that it is us. It's our next door neighbor. It's our relative. It's our brother or sister that this is happening to their children. And this isn't even talking about the other community of adults that are accessing the dark web for their own information. Right now, I'm really focused on bringing awareness to the problems our young people are having, children, through to young adult, which is generally considered around, the mid-20s. Because I think that we have an obligation as family, as parents, as extended family, and certainly spreading farther out into the community to educators, to the health professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the psychologists, any other kind of therapists, the psychiatrists, all those people that are involved in any aspect of our child's life, to have a much broader awareness of the influences that our children who do have struggles mentally and emotionally, and so they should growing up into adulthood. They have struggles that we as a community, starting with the family, need to start addressing. One of the things I think that is really important for parents to remember and to be gentle on themselves if they are receiving this information for the very first time, if they haven't got the information here, but they've happened to, read a news article, hear something on the news, and kind of breathe a sigh of relief that it wasn't their child, maybe falsely tell themselves that their child is okay. One of the things I really want to get across is that it could in fact be them. It could be you, where your child is making you think they're okay and they're really not. And to seize what's going on in the world, to seize this information that's coming at us that's not pleasant to hear about, the tragedies of other people's children, other people's kids who have been part of these secret communities. It's for us to have the courage, at whatever age our child is, to check in with them, to see that their mental and emotional health is okay. So how do we do this? We talk to our kids. And while I don't have the opportunity, the chance ever again to go back and have a different kind of conversation with my daughter, I did have with my son the kinds of conversations I want to share with you about talking to your own child. So instead of being afraid of what their answer might be, what you might learn, terrified that they have a problem that you can't help them with, just getting to know your child, who they are, how they think, what they're feeling, what they want to do that may not have anything to do with our dreams for them. This is what you want to find out from them, and no age is too soon to start doing this. One of the things I deeply regret losing my own daughter and looking back was how much I missed knowing about her, how much I assumed I knew about her and was wrong. I never for a moment doubt to this day that we were close, but the way I interpreted our closeness was not exactly the way we really were close. We were close in terms of mom and daughters going shopping, having tea, having our little chats, watching favorite shows together, cuddled up, you know, her telling me what to wear, me telling her how beautiful and gorgeous she always looked, approving of her next purchase, things like that. What she wanted to do with her life, what school she wanted to go to. And because of my worries for her, when I realized from the age of maybe about 12, 13, that she wasn't really responding to life the way I had hoped she would be responding. And with each year that she grew a little older, and I would say by the time she hit 18 and it was time to look at applying for colleges, universities, and the motivation wasn't there. I actually even filled out a college application for her. You know, it was really hard for me to accept that she was a little different from what I had dreamed about for her. Like, she didn't seem to want the things I wanted for her. So it took me another 3-4 years to sort of start pulling back and kind of listening and going, what do you want? But I will tell you, in all of this and all the worry I had for her, knowing she was depressed, knowing she was confused, knowing she seemed a little bit lost about the career direction to take, knowing that she couldn't, hold a job, knowing that she enrolled herself in university at the age of 21 and promptly quit 3 months later, and me being really disappointed in that, but knowing that I was losing a grip on how much more I personally could do for her, and in fact how responsible I could be for her. It wasn't until she actually died by suicide and her best friend told me within a week of her death at her memorial, my daughter's memorial, that all my daughter really wanted to do was move back home. It was she that, had chosen to go live on her own, and we supported that, not having any idea how much she was struggling with that. She just wanted to come home and not be a burden to us. And one of the reasons she spoke to her best friend about dying by suicide was that she really thought she was going to be a burden to us. You can imagine everybody's disappointment, and I'm just going to use that word lightly here, at knowing just how wrong we all were. When I found out my daughter had accessed the dark web and had quite a bit of activity on it within, I would say, 3 months of her actually completing her suicide, and when I found out the kind of information that she likely got when I accessed that one site myself, it is huge cause for parent concern today, knowing that the dark web is far more insidious and far more dangerous than it likely was 14 years ago. Today, and getting my information from these news articles and directly from people who have been on the dark web themselves, people who are watchers for people on the dark web, who are expressing, these vulnerable users who are expressing their deep, deep pain, their great desire to no longer be on the planet, and asking for ways how they can end their life as a result of their major torment. It's very disheartening, and it should be a wake-up call as a crisis to understand that there's also a great number of people on the other side of the dark web who are encouraging them to do self-harm at greater and greater degrees, to cut themselves deeper, to do more horrendous things to themselves online, to even film themselves dying, which they are doing today. This is huge. So while internet platforms are doing things now to implement controls, such as removing or preventing content, and in China, it's really interesting, they are using artificial intelligence to monitor messaging, and anytime certain messaging is triggered by this particular AI, it's being sent to volunteers throughout all parts of China, who are then alerting police and health authorities to go and either prevent a suicide or save someone, try to save someone that has already attempted it. Which I believe, by the way, that North America, and other countries should be following suit. It's really not enough for us as parents and for extended family and extended community, as I said, educators, health professionals, everybody, coaches, everybody in your kid's life, to just trust that they are okay without us talking to them about this dark side of the web, about any suicidal thoughts that they may be having, about any suicidal thoughts their friends may be having. I can't tell you how much guilt my daughter's best friend had over not telling anybody she knew that Janae really wanted to end her life. And she actually was just as shocked as the rest of us when the suicide occurred. And as I like to say, nobody sees a suicide coming. Nobody. Not one family member. I have yet to meet anyone or read about anyone that knew a suicide of their loved one was about to take place. So it's really important to understand that people, even when they're young, who intend to kill themselves, do not tell anyone. They may confide in one close friend, one confidant that they swear to secrecy, but other than that, they generally aren't going around broadcasting their imminent plans. Maybe they feel safer today to do this online, and maybe that's why these online communities in the dark web are thriving, because it offers them a false sense of support where they think they can bare their soul, and maybe they are looking to be saved in the dark web. I have a feeling a lot of them are, but unfortunately when they're really vulnerable themselves, these users who are young, who are depressed, who are confused, who are in pain for one reason or another, who believe they're not being listened to, who believe they're going to be misjudged or, get in trouble for feeling the way they feel. Maybe this is why we're seeing likely rising numbers of our young people, scouring the dark web and being influenced, if not driven, to doing things that ultimately are ending up in many deaths. Parents, talk to your kids. Do some research. Accept that it is a very real possibility your own child, who seems to otherwise be doing well in their grades, with their social community, with how they're acting, that below it maybe there's some trouble brewing. Trouble that you can actually steer them away from by letting them know how loved they are, how supported they are, and that you will be there to go through everything with them as they go through it. I can't tell you how regretful I am I don't have an opportunity to save my daughter, or that I had information back in the 2003, 2004, 2005 that twigged me to things I could do to help her through her really difficult time. There's a part of me that believes my daughter's life could have been saved. There's another part of me that wonders if that's correct, but I'm going with the part that said her life could have possibly been saved had we just had more knowledge and more courage to really find out what was going on. Parents, don't be afraid to talk to your kids. Ask them about the dark web. Ask them if they've been, invited to go and participate in any secret community. Ask them if they've been sworn to secrecy about another friend or student's life. Ask, ask, ask. You could save their life. Until next time, take care.